Hey guys, it's Tombox. Thanks for tuning into MST.TV. Now this video is one of the more serious ones. The topic we have at hand today is slow play. What is it? Are you slow playing? Am I slow playing? Have you hit the subscribe button and hit the like button on this video? Because if you haven't, you're slow playing my channel, and that is not acceptable. That's gonna be a 3-minute time extension, right? And also don't forget to check out the Patreon link down in the description below, and also huge shout outs to all of you new Patreons out there. Appreciate you guys for subscribing and help supporting this channel and keeping it running strong. But firstly, a disclaimer. Now this video is entirely my personal viewpoints on the subject of slow play. Judges from around the world may have different interpretations of stuff that's a little bit more ambiguous, but remember, just ask your head judge if you're not too sure. Just ask the judges that is in your area. Otherwise, all of us, we have the same base source, which is the penalty policy on Konami. Now, why am I covering this topic? First of all, I want to make sure that people stop misusing the term slow play. Some people are mixing it up with stalling, and that is not right. Like, you hear some people say, I only lost to my last round opponent because he slow played me into time and then he burned me for game or gained life points for game, like with Kaina or something like that. Is he stalling or is he slow playing? Because those are completely two different things. If he did it intentionally, then that's kind of more along the lines of stalling. But if he did it unintentionally, he just played slowly, he's not adept at his deck, then that would be slow play. And those have two completely different penalties to be issued here. One's a warning, the other is more like an unsporting conduct cheating. So one's disqualifiable, one's just a warning. So anyways, let's look into the policy document in terms of what slow play is for the definition. So on page 26 of the penalty guidelines document in section G, slow play, SP, this category covers infractions associated with the pace of a duelist's game. Point 1, duelists are expected to play at a reasonable speed regardless of the complexity of the game situation and should not waste time. I'll get back into this point as I need to kind of talk about it and kind of elaborate on various examples with this particular case, and those would be my interpretations. And then slow play infractions are always administered a warning at first and then upgraded as appropriate if the infraction is repeated. So that's right, if you slow play multiple times in a game, it can get upgraded. Slow play is presumed to be unintentional. So remember, it's not intentional. It's not that they are trying to really screw you over. It's just unintentional. They're not very good at what they're doing, and it's perhaps they're in a situation that they're not used to. And I'm actually going to read the examples below as well. Now, intentionally delaying a game or match is considered to be stalling and falls under the unsporting conduct cheating infraction. Those infractions are much more serious. Now, 1, SP minor. So slow play minor, a warning. This penalty is appropriate when a duelist unintentionally plays slowly, causing a minor delay in the game. It is a duelist's responsibility to play at a reasonable pace. Now that reasonable pace is something that I'm gonna try and to give you guys a bit more insight on, just for fairness sake, regardless of how complex the situation may be. This is kind of repeated from the original point. And a time extension of at least 3 minutes should be given following a slow play warning unless the match has entered the end of round procedures. And slow play infractions that continue throughout the event should be upgraded. So if you go into time and then someone starts to slow play you while you're in time, you don't have infinite time when time of the round is called. If a judge gives you a slow play warning when you are in time because you're holding up the rest of the tournament, be sure that you will be penalized accordingly, because you're holding everyone back at that point. Okay, looking at some of the examples here, a duelist is excessively slow while searching his deck with an appropriate card effect and does not appear to be doing so intentionally. Now, that just means that you're searching your deck slowly. I believe one of our channel mates, Oscar, got penalized for this one at an event previously because he actually looked through his deck and then he had to look through it a second time because he couldn't find the card. Yeah, stuff like that, it can count. It depends on the judge, seeing how lenient they are. A duelist is excessively slow near the end of the match, as the complexity of his upcoming action may decide whether he wins or loses the current game or match. Upon investigation, it is determined that he does not appear to be doing so intentionally. Yeah, when the game state gets really complex, it's something that can happen, and judges and people, they are reasonable and they understand that this can be a situation that may occur. A duelist repeatedly requests to see her opponent's graveyard or constantly requests hand count during any given turn and does not to be appearing to do so intentionally. Like, if you build a habit of doing that, that's not good. A duelist takes longer than 3 minutes allowed to access their side deck in between games of a match and does not appear to be doing so intentionally. Like, if you're taking 3 minutes and you're going over to side your deck, then you will be given a slow play warning for that. That's a very common issue. Some judges, they tend to look at their watch and time you on this, and they're actually paying attention more than you think. A duelist arrives at their table after the 3 minute marks has passed, so they've already gotten a tardiness penalty, which is a game loss. Then takes additional length of time to roll out their game mat, rummage for their deck, and otherwise get set up for the game. A slow play penalty should be given in addition to the tardiness penalty. So not only are you getting tardy, you're also getting a slow play warning. So that's a lot of penalties going on for just being late. So just don't be tardy. And finally, the last example they have here, a duelist repeatedly takes a long time to make decisions about which card to play in a complex combo-based deck. Upon investigation, it is determined that he does not to be doing so intentionally. Now, time for the breakdown. Now, I must say that I am personally guilty of slow play, especially when I play a new deck. I am not well versed at my deck. I am trying to think about the combos that I want to execute. The game state gets complicated, and I really want to know what I can do with my current deck. And that's why slow play occurs. To reduce the chances of slow play, you hear about people saying, oh, I play tested these various situations. These are the very situations that they have experienced, so that the moment that they occur, even though it may seem complicated, they have experience. And that's why a lot of the really strong players, a lot of the pro players, they play test so very much, so that when they see these various situations, they know the proper execution to get out of these plays. They would know which plays lead them to the dead end, so that they don't execute it like that. They don't have to think about it. They know the path that they are going to take. So combo pathing, they don't have to think about it, and that's why play testing is so important, because it also minimizes the chances of you getting called out on slow play. And the quicker you are with your execution, the better, and the better for the integrity of your game. So what is a reasonable pace? Now, that seems like it's a term that's up for interpretation, and it is, because it differs from situation to situation. It's like, I could be playing at a reasonable pace, at least I could be thinking I'm playing at a reasonable pace, but my opponent could have the exact opposite opinion, where he thinks I am playing way too slow, and therefore I am slow playing. So where's the balance? Like, who's right, who's wrong? Just because I think I am playing at a reasonable pace, that might not be correct, because don't forget, Yu-Gi-Oh is a two-person game. And if the judge comes in and he believes that you're not playing at a reasonable pace, then you're probably not playing at a reasonable pace, because the judge doesn't exactly have any stake in this. He can see the situation, kind of put himself in either player's shoes and feel like maybe he should have dropped the card already. Then in the judge's eyes, that is already a point of slow play. So what about the guy that is calling the judge over to like, hey, check out my opponent, he's slow playing. Is he always in the wrong? Well, not exactly. Like mentioned before, like the judge, depending on what kind of rubric they're using, or depending on what he feels like is slow play, if under the judge's eyes it's not slow play, then it's not slow play. He won't issue a penalty. But if he's like putting himself in your seat and he's like, oh my god, just put your card down, then of course the penalty will be issued. But what other things could warrant like slow play? Like, what in my eyes is slow play? Well, a player that lacks confidence in their plays, very hesitant, cards go back and forth. Should I use this? Should I not use this? Should I use this? Oh, I'm gonna link summon, but am I gonna use these monsters? And like constantly asking for like response. Like, I get that you want to maintain game state, but if you've been given the okay and your opponent's going to back, yeah, go, I will disrupt you when I need to disrupt you, then why are you slowing down at every single instance when you can just be smoothly executing your combo? Now, if you're searching for cards in your deck and you have multiple targets in your hand and a judge sees that, that's a bit of a red flag. But if you just pick up a target right away and you're good to go, then you're fine. But if you're going to be searching your deck, you should have your target in mind immediately. It shouldn't be a thing that you should be thinking about because, oh, you've activated the effect, therefore you know what you're doing. If you activate an effect and then you think for like, I don't know, a good like a minute or two, that's a minute or two wasted because you could have already had the target in mind, and that is something that a lot of people tend to get caught for. But what about play execution? Oh, should I use these two monsters? Like, this lack of confidence shows that you are not adept at your own deck, and that leads to slow playing. You'd be thinking extra long just because you don't know how to perform the execution, and that to me is like you're at a tournament. You should know this stuff. You either execute or you don't, but please don't waste your opponent's time where he has to wait for you to make your decision and watch you contemplate your decision. Yeah, that is not very fun, and that kind of grinds people's gears. And another thing that is, to me personally, slow play is if your physical motion is very slow and you're like, oh, I'm going to search my deck. You pick up your deck and you fan through your cards extremely slowly. I can't tolerate that personally, so if I were putting myself in the opponent's shoes, I'd be like, oh my god, please just get your card. That is something that is not good. Or if you're one of those that adjust your cards perfectly, something that can be done, like if I can do it in 1 second, then anyone else that is like me with two hands, a brain, eyes, and everything is able to just put the card down and I'm not physically challenged, then if what I can do in 1 second, I would give you like 2 seconds stop, like playing a card from your hand. Like, that shouldn't take 5 seconds. There's some people that, yes, they took 5 seconds to play a card where I'm like, you activate the card and then they're trying to pay the cost. Like, the cost was not even decided when you play the card. That is, to me, not very acceptable because you should be knowing what cost that you're going to pay right at the get-go. So anyways, those are my personal interpretations, some examples of what I interpret as slow play when it comes to this stuff, because a lot of people just don't think about it. They don't think about it, they're not adept at their deck, and that's why slow play occurs. One of the rule of thumb is if you think it is slow play and it feels like slow play and it smells like slow play, don't doubt yourself, it's probably slow play. So you just issue the infraction right then and there, because the longer you think about it, the longer the slow play continues. Yeah, so, you know, sounds logical, but it also sounds a little ironic that you have to think about it for so long. And is there like a rule of thumb, like how many cards you have to play per second? No, there isn't, because some decks are definitely more complicated and some decks need to search more than others. Like, the execution of the deck definitely plays a factor into it as well. But is there like a rule of thumb for this kind of stuff? Like, not really. As long as you're confident in your plays, you know what you're doing, you're continuing your execution cleanly, you're asking for response at the correct times, just to make sure that things are maintaining its game state. That's pretty much it for the most part. So yeah, that's my personal definition. Hopefully, at least if I'm judging your area, this kind of breaks down the ambiguity when it comes to slow play. And sometimes when you receive a slow play infraction, some people take it personally, like, oh my god, this judge thinks I'm cheating, or like, my opponent will now think that I'm cheating. Please don't think that. Slow play infractions are highly just viewed as unintentional. And because it's not intentional, all it really means is that the judge thinks that you could be playing at a faster pace. Okay, 3 little small examples of common things that could be interpreted as slow play, or perhaps even as stalling. You guys be the judge, leave it down in the comment section below. So under like a complicated game state, there's like 3 or 4 negates or 3 or 4 interruptions, and the other guy just opened with a 6 card. He seems like he can break the board. He has a lot of things to trade off cards 1 for 1. And he spends 3 minutes thinking about it, takes his finger, points it all over the board, like, yeah. Like, what are you really doing? Are you actually doing something, or are you just buying time? And then they eventually start to execute their move. If they execute their move confidently, card for card, they're just going for it with no types of delay. They're not stopping to think about what they're gonna search. They're not considering, or they're not contemplating various moves. Then yeah, they were legitimately thinking about how to break the board. But if on the execution of this, they're really slow, they're not confident, they're like, oh, maybe I want this card, oh, maybe not this one, I'll target that card, like they're slow to pay their cost, then yeah, well, that's slow play. They're kind of wasted a lot of time thinking, and they still haven't come up with a solution, which means they're still thinking, And that's not really playing at a reasonable pace anymore. That's kind of like the training pace, in my opinion. So in that case, it would be kind of a slow play. It is mentioned right there, like the situation gets complex and everything kind of slows down. Then yeah, regardless of the complexity of the game state, you should be playing at a reasonable pace, which is why playtesting is so important, so that you get these situations out of your system. You know how to tackle it right away without losing like the game entirely. And that's why like the strong players are so strong. What about locked under Mystic Mine, which is the second example? You have no out against Mystic Mine, and this one is a bit of a harder one to assess, but it's definitely one that requires a little bit more attention. It has occurred previously. So you have one opponent that is basically locked under Mystic Mine, has no outs. We are in game 3, and basically he's trying to draw out the clock so that it becomes a draw, because there's no difference in life points. The player with the Mystic Mine isn't going to summon a single monster, and the person with monsters on the field does not have Twin Twisters, Cosmic Cyclones, or any form of removal to clear it. And there's perhaps a couple minutes left on the clock. Rather than scooping or anything like that, he's just going to be draw. He's going to think about things in standby phase, pausing in various phases. If a player does that and they absolutely have no outs, it can be investigated to see if they were trying to dig for an out, or it can be also investigated whether or not they intentionally stalled out to force out a draw. That has occurred multiple times, and it is like very ambiguous. It's like it's up for interpretation of what's going on. Did they actually have the out, or are they just waiting for someone to misplay? I don't think I would buy that someone is trying to misplay. If for the last 10 turns, all what the player has been doing is drawing and discarding their cards, I don't think they're going to be putting a monster out on the field anytime soon. And if they're trying to go for a deck out, you guys can definitely count your deck. You guys can like, oh, you got way more cards. Is it over? I mean, just be honest, because if you're trying to burn out the clock, just force a draw, you might be in more trouble than you think. Like, it can be one of those situations where all of a sudden he decides to call a judge, and he calls the judge over. It's like, I believe he's just stalling the clock to hope for a draw, because he has no out and he's playing very slowly and taking time on every phase, because if he knows he has no out, that means he's going to lose anyways. That means he is very much aware of the current situation, and he's using the current information he has to force a draw, which is definitely not something that you're supposed to do, especially when at this point you're playing the clock, you're stalling. And one of the more common situations, what if you only have 3 minutes to side? There's only 3 minutes left in the round, you're going into game 3, and your opponent is just not bothering to side, because like, oh, there's only 3 minutes, I'm just going to use all 3 minutes to side and then the game's over. Please don't say that. If you say that you're just incriminating yourself to one of the harshest penalty of stalling, because well, you made your intentions clear of what you're doing. You are stalling the clock. You have no intentions of playing the third game. Maybe the other guy's playing Sky Striker, you don't want them to go into Kaina and then just activating a spell to win. Makes sense completely. But if you say it out loud, someone hears it, they call a judge saying that you're purposely not playing out the game, you could be get penalized. It really depends on the judge's mood. If the judge is like, I'm going to let you take it back because I feel like you're just frustrated, then maybe you'll be fine. But if the judge is being very strict, you can expect some severe consequences to follow, because you rightfully admitted that you are stalling the clock just so that there isn't going to be a last game, and that, well, ruins the integrity of the entire game. And that is just my advice to you guys. Please don't say stuff like that. If you're gonna try to play out the game. I get that sometimes you will take that long. Like, maybe normally if you side, you want to like, do I want to go first or second? Your decision on first or second and all that stuff could eventually maybe eat up the clock, and by the time you draw your first card, it'll still be draw phase. Time will be called, and you'll be okay. But if you're purposely just not doing it, that is a very, very bad look on you, and you might get penalized for something much more severe. So yeah, there's that. You know, integrity of the game, guys. Is there anything else you guys want to add? And what is your opinion as slow play? Leave it down in the comment section. I would like to read your thoughts on various situations, various scenarios perhaps that you guys have been in. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. If I help you clear up what I think is slow play, then, well, I'll be really happy. Hit that subscribe button, ding the notification bell, because if you haven't hit the notification bell already, as mentioned before, this would be your second infraction of slow playing my channel, and therefore that's a game loss on you guys, and it's going to be upgraded for sure. And don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you guys in the next one.